What is Saban's message after beating Ole Miss so badly? My message would be, talk about what I just said. You scored 42 points, but a lot of that was on short fields, and Ole Miss's defense isn't great. Now, it's better than it was last year, but some high school defenses would be better than it was last year. That's your message. And Saban, Nick Saban's lost some games in Alabama, obviously. We talked about this. How many times have they gone the regular season undefeated? 2008, 2009, 16, 17. No, they lost Auburn. 18 and 20. So like 5 or 6 times. But they've never lost like a weird game in October. No, 2012 they lost to Texas A&M. They lost to Johnny Football. So I wouldn't be concerned about A&M. Or not A&M. I wouldn't be concerned about Alabama having a midseason dip. These kids are too talented. Plus the schedule kind of levels off. They got, let me go back. They're at Mississippi State and then Tennessee, LSU, New Mexico State, Arkansas after A&M next week. So you got, to start the year, ranked Miami. They're no longer ranked. At Florida, really good team. Ole Miss, probably a top 15 to 20 team. At Texas A&M, a top 20 team, I'd guess. But a team that was ranked in the top 10 to preseason. And then at Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU, New Mexico State. And then you got Arkansas at home, and then you're at Auburn. So I think the schedule starts to level off a little bit. When is the bye week? The bye week is in between Tennessee and LSU. So in a couple weeks. I don't think Alabama will have any issues going the rest of the season undefeated. The big games before the season were the Florida game. Not even the Florida game, because we all didn't know what they were. It turns out they're pretty gosh dang good. And Ole Miss, we thought might be difficult. And now we're like, okay, what? And at A&M, and that just doesn't seem like it's going to be the game we all thought it might be. Telling that game's not on 2:30 on CBS. Yeah, Auburn's won, 3 of 5 at Jordan-Hare against Saban since 2013? Yeah, they won in 13, lost in 15. Or 3-1, lost in 15, won in 17. Can't do math. 1 in 17, 1 in 19. Yeah, they're 3-1 since Gus Malzahn took over in 2013. That's a house of horrors. It seems to be for Alabama. So yeah, I mean it's a trap game for sure. I just with No Bix, I don't think. No, I did not mispronounce that. His name is No Bix. I just don't think Alabama should have any issues. Now, what I will say with this caveat is we are only in week 5, thinking NFL. Teams can get better week to week. That happens. But at this juncture, I don't see Auburn being much of a threat to the Crimson Tide. Not as long as No Bix is still around, because he's just, even when they beat him in 2019, he wasn't good. That was Mac Jones throwing 2 pick sixes. That was that problem. There we go. I wanted to show my name. Just going to be an interesting. College football in general, I know a lot of fans have complained about, well, every year it's Clemson, it's Ohio State, it's Alabama, and recently Georgia's been hanging around. They've only made the playoff once, and they only deserve to make it once. You don't get to talk to me about 2018 or 2019 about Georgia making the playoff. But I do think this year we'll have some parity for spots 2 and 4. And Oregon just went down, so who knows? Spots 2 and 4 are wide open. But I think we're really on a collision course for Alabama and Georgia in the national championship game and in Atlanta. And reminder, when we get to that game, it's tough to beat an elite team twice. So anything can happen. No matter, Alabama could lose the first game 24-7, and I still would be like, oh, the second game could be really good because look at LSU, and the last time we saw this happen, LSU and Alabama. LSU escaped with a 9-6 win. Alabama and then just beats them to death in the national championship game, because to beat Alabama you need a good quarterback, and George Jefferson at that time was not a good quarterback. OU in the winner of the Big Ten. Oklahoma looked. I watched bits and pieces of that game. Oklahoma looked. Actually, I watched a good chunk of that game. For those who don't know, I have one big TV in my room. I have a second smaller TV. That was my dad's. My brother uses it for the most part, but I get it on Saturdays. And then I have my laptop. So I have 3 games going on at once. And then, of course, I'm on Twitter kind of just seeing what's going on, or ESPN.com, just looking at like game casts and stuff, see if I need to turn to a game. And I have all the networks except Pac-12 Network because I don't want the Pac-12 Network. But Oklahoma today against Kansas State, a team that's beaten them 2 years in a row, looked better than they have, especially like against West Virginia and Nebraska and Tulane. So, yeah, I could see them making the playoff, but with how they've played so far, I'm going to have a tough time believing that they're going to get in. They're going to be undefeated. And if they're not undefeated, we've got some issues because they've got games against Iowa State. They're going to have a Big 12 title game. Texas and Bijan Robinson. Is it going to be a cakewalk like it was for Arkansas? And then the winner of the Big Ten. I think that depends. And today we saw it. Ohio State has the talent to murder everybody they play from here to the end of the season. And if that happens and they get to a Big Ten title game against a 1-loss or undefeated Iowa, because that Big Ten West is, or if Iowa wins the Big Ten West and undefeated and wins the Big Ten championship game. But I think Ohio State's probably still your best case scenario for the Big Ten to be competitive in the playoff, because they do have the talent. They're, like I've said, teams are allowed to get better, and their defense looked better against Rutgers, but Rutgers' offense isn't great. We'll know more about Ohio State as they take on Penn State, Michigan State, and Michigan. Or Michigan runs the table. The winner of the Big Ten could absolutely do that, but I've also could see a scenario where like Ohio State beats Michigan and makes the Big 12, or loses to Penn State, beats Michigan, makes the Big Ten title game with 2 losses, and a whole bunch of these things happen. But what's intriguing is this is going to be an interesting race. But I think if Oklahoma loses one time, they're probably out, because I don't think Cincy's going to lose a game. And if Cincy's undefeated, you can't keep moving the goalposts. You just can't. Like they deserve to make it. They went on the road and beat Indiana, who right now doesn't look that good, but they still have chances to beat Penn State tonight. They have a chance to beat Michigan, and they'll have a chance to beat Ohio State at home. So they have chances to get some big wins and really add to that resume. And they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, a top 10 Notre Dame team. And Notre Dame, if you look at their schedule, UNC, USC has a chance to win a lot of football games. So if they're undefeated and you have a 1-loss Pac-12 champion, let's just say Oregon runs the table, you have a 1-loss Big 12 champion, Oklahoma, and you have a 1-loss Big 10 championship, you have to put Cincinnati in there. You have to. And then the 4th spot, it's just going to kind of depend. This is This is going to be a really interesting playoff race. Really, really interesting, outside of Georgia and Alabama. I was excited for that Arkansas-Georgia game, too. Not that I thought Arkansas would compete super greatly. I think I picked like 31-10. But my God, was that just not a game at all. Just not a game. I mean, Stetson Bennett didn't even have to pass the ball. Oops, didn't mean to click on that comment. No comments clicked for me, please. Yeah, leave your comments, questions, and reactions to this game. I'm here to talk as long as you guys want to talk. If not, then probably go for like another 15 minutes, but we can go longer. I probably get off before the end of the Florida Kentucky game. If OU craps the bed and everyone beats everyone else in the Big Ten, could you have no? The only way Florida's going to get in is if they. No, Florida will have to run the table to get in. An undefeated Cincy would get in. I know it's a simulcast because I want the Alabama fans to be tuned in, and a little bit of a bigger audience here on the SEC. So you get some Ole Miss fans in here, Arkansas fans, Georgia fans, whoever just wants to talk about the SEC. Now that we've reached the later parts of the show, trust me, I know I'm on 2 channels. I was told to, and I figured out how to do it. It was very difficult. I had to click 2 things. So this is why I went to school. No, but going back to this comment, no, undefeated Cincy team would go to the playoff. Florida would have to beat Georgia and probably Alabama to make the playoff. Yes, you can look at Florida and go, look, they're a really, really good team. And they'll beat Kentucky tonight potentially, and 2 losses this year would be to Georgia and Alabama. How can you punish them? You just can't have a 2-loss non-conference champ. Didn't even play in the conference championship game, make the playoff. They're not going to put 3 SEC teams in. Since you would go in, you have to. If a 2-loss Florida team got in the playoff before Cincinnati, the group of 5 schools should just quit the NCAA. As cool as that would be for the SEC, if teams not in the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, the Big 12 for the time being, Pac-12 should just leave and go play in their own thing. Go do like an FCS thing, because that would be ridiculous. Yeah, we might have overrated Liam Cohen and Will Levis based on games against UL Monroe and Missouri. Might have overrated them just a little bit. Yeah, Todd Grantham, I know we give him a lot of flack, but he called a really good game against Alabama, and I don't think we give him enough credit for his game calling that game. Yeah, I just put that game on. I'll put Penn State, Indiana, I guess, on TV too. Because if I can, why not? And tonight ending with Arizona State, UCLA. This was a good day of college football. We saw some really good games. Some good games that we thought were going to be blowouts. But yeah. The thing with Florida too, but just speaking on Florida, what you have to be encouraged about if you're a Gator fan is Anthony Richardson's a better quarterback than Emory Jones. And Florida's still probably going to win 9 games. Maybe they lose tonight, or they lose to LSU or something. But they still are probably going to win a ton of football games, and they're only going to get better.